Hi, everyone. I am so excited today because I get to speak with author Kathryn Sermak. And she wrote a book called Miss D and Me. And it's about her time, the last 10 years that she spent with Bette Davis. And I mean, that book, I could not put it down. It was so good. And how lucky is she? Okay. 10 years. I can't wait. I have a million questions to ask her. So I can't wait to talk to her. And I am so excited that she said yes to talking with me. So, everyone, here is Kathryn.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be speaking with Kathryn Sermak today, and we're going to be talking about her book that came out at the end of last year called Miss D and Me, Life with the Invincible Bette Davis. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Oh, no. Good morning, and thank you, and I welcome all your listeners.
I read like half this book when I asked you to talk with me because I was scared that I thought I wouldn't be able to talk to you about Bette Davis if I didn't know more about Bette Davis. So I was scared that I wasn't going to know enough. But then when I started reading your book and realized that you actually didn't know everything about Bette Davis either when you first started working for her, and I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better about it. But I learned so much about her, and I don't know. I can't. There are no words to explain like how I feel about her now after reading your book.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, now I'm curious. How did you hear about my book? If you didn't.
Yeah, somebody recommended. Okay, so I am friends with like lots of book reviewers and book bloggers, and somebody passed it my way and said, "Did you ever read this book? And do you like reading biographies?" And I was like, "Yes, I do." And then I saw it. I'm like, "Well, I love old movies. Okay, I'm a huge old, but kind of like a Judy Garland and Katharine Hepburn, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? I don't think I saw a Bette Davis movie. That is so weird because I've seen so many older movies, and and I was trying to remember how she came into that. I knew exactly who she was, and I have to say, my mom got a lot of those paparazzi magazines back in the late 70s, early 80s, and after reading your book, I realized how much the paparazzi was still following her around. And I think that's why she became a part of, like, I knew who she was. I knew what she was, but I'd never seen any of her movies. Now, I've sat down and watched some now because I was so interested, but like, I don't know, when reading your book, like, I'm so happy that you're putting her out there for another generation of people to appreciate who she was. Because
absolutely. And it's also a promise I made her. But, similar to you, I did not know who Miss Davis was. But it's not only because I was not brought up in film. And watching movies was a luxury. We were, I come from a family of five, I know. So ours was, it's always study, 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 and it's book learning. And, at that time I was studying to be clinical psychologist. So it's a far cry from, watching movies where that's where her history was made. But since then, and the millenniums, I have one terrific girl, Nikki Lazos, who she does a lot of the social media, but Turner Classic Movies is constantly showing Miss Davis's movies, all the classics. And since Miss Davis passed, that's probably really the first time we had a chance to really look at her movies because we were always working. And I said this up until there was a moment we were working on a documentary. It's when towards the end she had radiation, and we thought, what a better way? Who could interview Miss D better than myself? So that's when I started watching her movies. And then I had to stop watching them because I started seeing Miss D through different eyes. Up until then, I knew the woman. There's the professional Bette Davis, and then there's the personal. And when you're around somebody 24/7, she was my best friend, my mentor, my grandmother, my mother, even though I had my own mother and grandmother. But it's that 50-year difference. And she was so incredibly supportive. Always supportive of women, and now, as she would say, women, they need to do what the men do. Like the old boys club supported one another. And back, I don't know, 30 years ago, after Miss D passed in my first job, I needed stability, so it was in television. And did I ever see, the backbiting? And that's when I learned what she was saying. And it's so refreshing now to see women finally are on board helping one another.
Yeah, and I think that coming from her, because she was around so many men on her own, as part of the movie industry, that she probably felt like when she watched them, like that's, I wish I had that. Like I wish, because anybody, if anybody would have seen it, she would have, because back in those days it was run by men. The women really had.
Like, she was a fighter, but she was a fighter for good script. She was, as anybody knows, she was incredibly professional. Unlike what you see today. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're not professional today, but it was a different era. When she walked on a film set, as I stated in the book, it's like, we're going to prison for 3 months. Absolutely everything is concentration. You do the research. She knew the whole script before you ever step foot on a film set. And that's because you don't want to waste time.
I loved when you described her professionalism. I really did. I really enjoyed that part of it, because I was thinking, in this day and age, everything is not that professional. And I'm not talking just about them because I don't know, but I know in my life there are things that I enjoyed that were very professional, and now I know it's not. Or even just a simple one. I think what I love about older movies is looking at how they would dress for dinner. And we lost that, and then you lose, and people will say, well, why do you want to do that? It's like, well, not only do you lose that, but then you lose some of the other things that comes with dressing for dinner, right?
Because she cared. Back then, you cared. Think of when you did film, when you were making black and white, and it wasn't color, but the way you worked with the music, the way you have to know clothes, the detail that they put on the film set, the detail that Miss D went into, whether learning the character. She was very much against, well, for her, actor studio. She did not believe that. She always said acting is bigger than life. It's not that you play yourself. It comes from way deep within. And there was as she told me and taught me, she learned from Warner Brothers. And they taught them how to walk, how to talk. You have to do press, because it is a business, and everybody has a job to do. And even though you're an actor, your job is not just to act. You have to sell the film. You have to take care of your fans. She always, first and foremost, she took care of her fans. When we went to a huge event, the fans would be there. She would stop, go over first, and she would sign. She would sign and sign for, 15, 20 minutes, and then the next step was the photographers. After you do, and we would divide it up into, you might have 300 photographers, you make different sections for them. Because if you give the same photograph to everybody, they're all trying to sell, to the magazines. And nobody wants the same photo. She understood all that. And she made sure, she said, everybody has a job to do, even the photographer. They have a family to feed. It's respect. And that's why she worked so hard. She knew when that film, once the film's over, you cannot go back and change it. That's why she said, when we're on a film set, this is work. But once the work is over, go away. Take a month off, She was incredibly generous. She would say 3 weeks, paid vacation, go wherever you want. You've worked hard. You've earned it. And I think that's why a lot of those films still to this day, many great classics uphold. You have great writers, though, too.
Right.
You have to have, she always said, you can have the greatest actor, but it's the writing. If it is not on the page, it doesn't matter how great an actor or actress can be. If it's not there, it's not going to hold up. And that's why she always fought for a good script.
And I thought of parts of the book. I mean, this book made me laugh. It made me cry. I mean, there was every, run of emotions, okay? And the parts that I laughed the most were when she would be teaching you. And, I try to think of how you are when you're 23, because I have children that are that age. And, it's a very stubborn age. It can be.
Well, you
And
think you know the world. I mean,
that's right.
you're young. You've gone to college. You look at somebody in their 70s, and it's like we can run circles around you. And it's like, I need to get her up to speed here. And because it's like we can conquer the world, and we've now had all this learning. Think of it, 16 years of, of education. And little did I know, the working world and just living life, as I learned, there is great wisdom you learn. And that's where I'm so fortunate. As she always said, I'm going to teach you and you will pass it on to others. Make a million mistakes if you want. Just don't make the same mistake twice, which seems fair.
I love that. And you would be kind of just like digging your heels in, like just, okay, fine. And you'd learn it because you had to. And then after you did it, there was a line you said something like, oh my gosh, she was right. This does make sense.
Right. But it took a while. It took a while. Yeah. I love that. I remember just, I have a niece and nephew, and I watch, honestly, I don't think, when you're 21, 22, whether you're living here, you're in France, everybody goes through a very similar situation where you're cutting the umbilical cord. You want to stand on your own 2 feet. And she was smart enough, incredibly smart, but she knew that. And that's why she never threw me in too deep. You had to prove yourself. And what made sense, if you cannot do the simplest task that she was asking, why would she let you go beyond if you can't prove yourself and do something simple? And that made sense because I couldn't understand. By then I had traveled Europe. I certainly knew how to get on planes and off planes, and she wouldn't let me handle the tickets until I proved myself. And I could not understand that. And that was, I think, our first trip when I saw those red bows. Who in the world put, bows on suitcases? Let alone they were beautiful, But it was just like how embarrassing. Who goes, and I'm going to go get the luggage and it's like a Christmas present. But I then learned it's practical. Everything was practical. You don't take a limousine to show off. It's everything had a reason. Not that we always took it, but when it was for business, absolutely, because you're saving time. And that's what the bows did. It saved time. So the moment you saw those bows, you're not turning over luggage, is it this one, is it that one, because they all look alike.
Right.
She's a New England Yankee, very practical.
I love that. There's so many things that inspired me that, about her that you brought out in the book. And I have to say, one of them, there were 2 huge ones. First of all, with so many actresses that were back in her day, and even after her, when they got to be, when it got to be 1960, 1970, they were all broke. Okay, you hear about how, poor they became because they weren't making as good of money and they weren't, their career didn't last but she was still living and working well into her 70s. And that is just so inspiring.
Into her 80s.
Into her 80s, right.
Yeah, even because she passed at 81. She loved her work, though. She loved her craft. And, and think of back then, there's not, similar to today, there's not that many great roles as you get older. But when Whales of August came around, when they approached her with whales, although I must say she loved doing the film, but in the end, which is so mystic, you have Whales of August, but there are no whales in the film. And she always said, why are you calling it Whales of August when there's not a shot of a whale in the film? But she did. She was fortunate, and she did love she loved her craft so much.
And then the scene that she buys that house in Long Island, and she has
we rented it. Excuse me. No,
rented it. Oh, okay. But she had you guys out there doing the gardening. Okay. I was like, she could have hired somebody to do the gardening. Okay.
Oh, she did have a garden. They do have a gardener that comes once a week, but that's New England Yankee. She loved it. Missy loved to cook. She loved to garden.
Right.
She knew the kids. It was going to be a family reunion. We rented it because we were working on 2 films at that time. We didn't do, let me say, we were preparing for 2 films back to back. At that time, right afterwards, it was, I think, Little Gloria, Happy at Last, and then the HBO with Jimmy Stewart, Right of Way. But she wanted, after doing Family Reunion, she thought, it was time. Let's bring the family together. And so she wanted to be right on the water, practically in the water, which it was. And she had Beatty and her family, and Mike and Sue, and Matthew, their little, at that time Cameron wasn't born yet, and we had Margot visit afterwards because there wasn't enough room. And so Margot and Bunny Dale came, after this. But it was one of her dreams. You want to get the family together. She loved her family. She loved her kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a side that most people don't see about Missy. They all write, or it's from what I learned more about the way the public saw her after her passing. And it was really more the way she was in her characters, which you could never work for somebody like that if she really was like that as her character. Absolutely not. That would be. But she was very extremely private. And the reason you're so private because, if everybody is pulling at you, it's like the public owns you. And when you do become that huge, you're internationally famous, and they feel like they know you, they want something. Well, you've got to keep grounded. As she always told me, you've got to keep part of yourself, with your feet sturdy on the ground. And the way you do that, it's not by reading all your press. And you just keep those people, she always had a handful of people. And they were not necessarily in the profession. Not at all. They're the people that you can always go to, whether it was her attorney or, just it could be, the doctor, the dentist, maybe, don't get me wrong saying that she didn't. She had close friends like RJ and many that were in the business, but there are different degrees. There's always different degrees, and certainly her family was number one.
Yeah, and I love that, the pictures that you have in the book. I love the way she looked at you. Like, you can so tell how much she loved you. I just thought her eye, of course, her eyes are expressive and she's an actress, but in those moments, I don't even know if she knew that she was getting a picture taken, but it's still like she looked so adoringly and lovingly at you. And I just love those pictures.
Well, don't forget we've been through a lot. I always say those first 2 years, they were boot camp, It was.
Right.
And I would say the first 5 years, she taught me everything. And I've used it in, whoever I've worked for afterwards. It wasn't always in the film industry, whether it was for, I think, Pierre Salinger or even Buzz Aldrin, and even with Barry Gordy. They all have they were all tops in their profession. But as what she taught me, you can use it anywhere you go because it's a lot of it is just, it's very simple, honesty, truth, respect. They're the little things, but they're the most important.
Well, she knew, and
I say that's the first 5 years. The second 5 years is when she had. Well, no, that's when she had the mastectomy. Then she went through the stroke, which she almost died. Actually, they did it for a few seconds there and came back. And then you have her daughter. Dee Dee were so incredibly close. that I would never have believed it in 1,000 years. None of us would have, that she would have betrayed her mom or wrote a book. If you're going to write a book, just tell your mom. Honestly, she would be the first to say, okay, if you always needed money, you always let me know. So if you want to write a book, fine, write a book. Just, then let me see it. Let me have a say. If I wanted to write a book, even while she was there, I know hands down she would say that. Because when I wanted to do an interview, and she said, yes, that's okay. So you figure out the questions, and even though it's never been seen, it's on my bucket list of one of the later things to do.
Mm-hmm.
But she was just very, very fair and very understanding.
Right. And I totally, when you opened, she told you to start this book this way, beginning with that part of her life. And I have 2 daughters, and I was thinking to myself, I would have felt exactly the same way she did. I don't know what I would, I don't know how depressed I would be especially, who she was and how much she did for her. And, I would have acted the exact same way. So I really, it made me relate to her, when in the very beginning of the book, I was like, yes, that's exactly how it would hit you. No matter who you are, it doesn't matter that she was Bette Davis. It was betrayal by her daughter.
Absolutely. And that was worse than the stroke. That, honestly, I always believed, that killed, you can.
Yeah, killed a part of her, yeah.
Yeah, it's your heart.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who knew Miss Davis, everybody knew, oh my God, anything Beattie wanted, Beattie got. She loved Beattie. I did not want my book to be all about Beattie, but I have photographs of Beattie and her mom together.
Mm-hmm.
So loving, adoring. And I honestly think, if you were going to write the book, you had 5 years beforehand to write the book. Why didn't you? Because they told me and Harold and Steve they did not believe she was going to make it. And Mike and Beattie were there too. Okay, so, and they went and talked to Mike and Beattie, which I'm sure, if you're telling us this, I'm assuming you're saying the same to them. I did not have that, don't get me wrong. I was always pleasant with Beattie, but that's not my position,
Right.
But then I did hear, and later Harold did say, much later he found out that's when she went and wrote the book. Well, that makes sense.
Yes.
Because otherwise you had all these years to do it and you never did it.
Right.
And from what I was told, Jeremy ran into problems with his business. And at that time, no, Miss Davis, she had to have the stroke. You had her on many drugs, and Harold was not, you cannot just, he was not going to bail them out.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, that was the hardest thing.
How long did it take you to write this book?
It's not what took so long. I jokingly say 28 years, but I didn't start right away. I always said I wasn't going to do it. Misty always said, oh, yes, you will, because there's a great story. She said, you've got to tell the great story. It's between 2 women. And when you're 20, how much you can learn from the elderly. And by the time the elderly, they want to pass on the information. And they've got the time to do it. When you're in your 40s, and you're at, let's say you're at a peak, or you're at your 50s and you're going a mile a minute, you don't have time. There were times I remember trying to hire an assistant, and it was too much work, to try to train her. It's just, you know what, let me just do it, because I had all that experience. And you cannot be training somebody, not when you're with Misty and you've got all, the world watching you. That's why she trained me, but she did it slowly, little by little. And a lot of it, when you're on a film set, that's one way. Behind closed doors, there was a the actor strike. That's where she had a lot of time to train me. And she always said, one day, I hope, whether you learn this or you don't, that's your choice. But there are societies that if you don't know it, they will close the door to you. Mm-hmm. And you never know. And then I always remember the time came and we were invited to lunch with President Mitterrand and his family, which was just a private affair, just Misty and I. And Mrs. Mitterrand made a mistake, and she kicked me under the table, but she was so proud to one day see, that, okay, she taught, the kids grew up.
Oh. What is the one thing that you'd love to remember about her?
That I'd love. It's not like, I don't know if I would say remember, because honestly, I feel Misty's presence always. She's always around me. I mean, always, she taught me so much about life. We used to say, okay, whoever goes first, we would have our little signals. But then she had that with her mother, too, and her grandmother favor. So when people come over, my friends, they always say, they feel her spirit, her energy, because she believes everything has energy in it, which is true, as Buzz, working for Buzz Aldrin taught me. There's energy even in your wood. She loved her, she loved her home. Certain pieces, she always said, I want Mike to have this, I want you to have this. And that is something, you can't burn energy. And that's why I think many times people say, be careful if you have something of somebody else, that energy can transfer over. But I think she always had this necklace, and it was on the day that we didn't know she was going to pass. You never know when somebody's going to, the actual day. And I remember it just so happened, I was all in black, and she said, I want you to wear this necklace. I want you to wear it. And her necklace, she always had little charms on it. And so since then, I'm very sentimental. And so I always do, and I always have on a bracelet. So for me, it's really comforting. I always say it's Miss D who, yes, I might be the vehicle who wrote the book, but when you read the book, you're reading her words. Those are because I took them off of many of the tapes that we made out of her letters. Her son, Michael Merrill, gave me permission to use them. And that's why I think so often you hear when you read the book, you're hearing Misty. That is her. And I think that comes through.
Yeah, I really believe that comes through because, and even me, somebody who didn't know a lot about her, but as I was reading it, I kept feeling like it was her speaking. It was this really weird sensation I got. I had to keep reminding myself that it was you who wrote the book and not her that wrote the book.
But
because it did feel like an autobiography.
Right, but it is kind of between both of us. When you're around somebody so often, and you ask why it took, how long, because I think after a few years, I came across the tapes. There must be over 30. We used to make tapes, send them back and forth when I was living in Paris, even though I came.
What a great idea.
Every month, every 2 months I was with her, but then I transcribed it, and all through the tape, she would say, I was hearing. She would just say it on tape. This is a wonderful story. First you're going to do the book, then you're going to make it into a movie. Because it's a great, you don't just tell a story to tell it unless there's something behind it. And the theme, although yes, it is Miss Davis, and that to me it's always the icing on the cake, the real story is these two women, and how supportive she was, and how the youth, you can learn so much. And you know what? And the elderly can learn from the youth too.
Right.
It's that relationship that so often I see everything is pushed on the youth today, but it's like it has to be in the moment right then. And if you reach out and you think of these people have lived life, there are certain, I call them laws of the universe that don't change. They're there. even 100 years from now. They're simple things that do not change. What changes are the circumstances. It's kind of like fashion. Okay, you're going to change the way this looks, change the way that. But the principle, the underlying principle is the same.
I really hope this is made into a movie. I really
Well,
do.
as I say, it's up, Misty made this book happen because in the beginning I did have a great writer, but it wasn't, she did a lot of celebrity bios. And what the problem I had with that is she knew Miss Davis from, the world, that world of Miss Davis. But that is not my Miss D. And when after the proposal, it was not my book. And I could hear Miss D say then, you know what? There were things that they didn't happen, or it was being insinuated that things would happen. And it's a way to tell the story. And it's like, nope. And I could hear Miss D saying, okay, then you walk. Just like she walks off on pictures. And after you put so much, and I saved my money, and I remember Miss D said, you always pay the writer. You pay the writer. If the publishers pay the writer, then their loyalty is going to go to the publisher. And then that's like her fighting Warner Brothers. Good luck.
Mm.
So, when that happens, I put the book aside. I couldn't go there maybe for 5 years. And then I thought, okay, let's try it again. This time I took a younger girl. I gave her the 3 books, or Misty, The Lonely Life, this and that to read. And halfway through, I'm reading it, and it's like, well, I don't talk like that. That's not me. And all of a sudden, once again, it's like, okay, that went by the wayside, and I put it down. And then my mother passed unexpectedly. She had an aneurysm. And that's when I thought, okay, I would chat with Misty, and if you want this, I need some help here. And my agent, who has always stood by me through thick and thin, she said, all right, let's try. And that's when Danielle Morton. I had all the information. I had written, over 400 pages. What I didn't have was the structure, and structure is everything. Plus, I had way too much information. I mean, I always say I'm the keeper of all of these things that need to be told. But when you tell a story, you have to focus on one. And it's, Miss D never had, life was never boring, let me tell you. You have to weed through which stories you're going to tell. And Danielle also was the first to say she thought just the way I did through, we're going to do a motor trip. And not everybody, no, they didn't want the motor trip. They wanted more, another book. And it's like, no, there's so many books on Miss Davis. I don't want, that's not, I don't know that, I don't know her biography. I'm not a Betty Davis fan. It's the story, I can only tell my story.
Right.
And that is the story I always believe. That's what Miss D wanted. Nobody knows it better because I lived it.
Yes.
And let me tell you, with the people I work for, I would never, ever write a book unless it's because she made me promise and she knew, she knew film, she knew stories. And I'm just keeping a promise. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And you can so tell in this book. Like I said, this book brought so many emotions out in me. Writing about a woman that I knew so little about. And, by the end of the book, I was like so in love with her and her story. And I just want to thank you for writing it. I know it's blessed so many people. And, I can't encourage everyone enough to read. Don't feel like you need to know that Betty Davis, because you don't. This is a different Betty Davis anyway,
Oh, well, thank you. Well, then they came out with this movie, Ryan Murphy came out with Betty and Joan, right? But
yes.
I will always say, you know what, it's like, well, Mr. Murphy, okay, you might. But I will, and I do say thank you because you put Miss D back in the public once again, and all these young new millennials are,
Getting to know her.
because of the movie, it brought attention to my book, but it's like my book was way before in the making than your movie, and I truly believe it was Miss D up there saying, okay,
Oh,
so
no.
we need to generate some press. Now, how are we going to do it? But that, and now you have that big lawsuit with Olivia de Havilland. Well, let me tell you, Miss Davis was alive today. You better believe it. She would stand up and do the same thing. They never came. Ryan Murphy never came to the estate to ask us, and I'm sure because if it had I seen, I saw the first, and instantly that is not anybody. Being on a set with Miss Davis for 10 years, absolutely not. But would she ever act that way? Did she? Miss Davis doesn't scream, yell. She doesn't use foul language. Not at all. When she's upset, all she has to do is look at you. She's a pro on a set. She would never stoop that low. But, it is, as he said, it's entertaining. What I see happening today, when people start seeing these, even though they're first to say, no, it's not a documentary, it's for entertaining, but because of the Internet, a lot of people believe it as true.
Right.
And you know what? And for me, it's like, absolutely, you portrayed a character you created that's not from things that she told me. She never had an affair with Robert Aldrich. Never. She didn't need to do that. Would be so insulting. Because she cared about her work, and that's how she got there, is through hard work. She never slept around like that. When she did, with the director Willie Wyler, she was in love with him. She almost married him. There's a big difference, and she never did it for parts. That is not Miss Davis at all.
Right. Well, I'm so happy that you wrote this. I'm so happy that you got, that you've exposed
so
me
much.
to her, and and now I just love her. And like I said, I really hope this gets made into a movie so everybody can see this part of her. And it was just such a blessing for me. And
thank you. Well, so do I. Hopefully, somebody out there will, see what that we are seeing, and then I always say, well, Miss Steve, I'm just putting it out there.
That's right. That's right. She'll know. And I just want to tell everybody, I will have the links, the Amazon links underneath here, and any other links that we find of, Facebook or whatever, and of yours. They will be there for you to get a copy of this book. And thank you so much for talking with me. You made my day.
No, it's my great pleasure. And, I think what we're going to start to do also in the future, because there are no more book tours. They don't really do book tours anymore, although I did. I did with Missy's book, and I could hear her because we went around from California all the way to the East Coast, and it was amazing how her fans, even now 30 years later, they adore her. But now, since that has stopped, on her website, I thought, you know what? For those people, if you want to give a gift or you want to, have it autographed or signed, they can go onto the website, buy the book, it comes, and then I'll sign it. They'll get the Betty Davis book plate, and then they can give it as a gift.
Oh, that's awesome. And I will put the link to your website underneath there so that everybody can see that, because that is an awesome gift right there. That's amazing.
Or, you know what? That's why I did the Betty Davis book plate, because it's for those fans and the fans who went to the book signing. That's what she taught me. You always have to give something back to the fans that makes it special. You know what? It's not me. What they want a piece of Miss Davis. And in April, her birthday is April 5th. It's coming up. Every year we try to do something. So this year, too, we're doing an auction. I'm doing an auction with Heritage Auction. I think it's April 8th on the Internet. And it's also to start promoting the Betty Davis Foundation. You know, even though I did the book it's now, you know, helping those students. Her son and I created it to give, you know, so that you can help students in the arts. Because
That's awesome.
and I know what it's like. When I was in college, I got a scholarship, and that scholarship helped. And especially today when everything is so expensive. So it's also a way of giving back, and that it's in her name.
Yeah, and you know what? Since it's so close to that date, I think I'll post this on her birthday. I think I will do that.
Lovely.
Because
Oh,
that
well,
would be
then
another
we'll
way
tell
to bring,
everybody
you know.
happy birthday.
Yes, so we can say happy birthday.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
yes. And,
That
you
would
know,
be awesome. That would be
Miss
awesome.
Joy said she has to be at the first.
Yes, I love that. Well, first of all,
And Aries, she's an Aries. Her favorite color is red. And red spells, you know, her initials, Ruth Elizabeth Davis.
That's
Oh,
really
no.
good.
And that's why I thought, okay, Miss D, I always said, you know, for her fans. And so we chose some of the items, just thinking, okay, it's a salute to the book, to her book, because it really is, you know, I always say it's Miss D. Without Miss D, it's yes, it's our story, but it finally came out.
Right. And okay, so I saw that you're Libra, and I
Yes.
know that Libra and Aries get along because my ex-husband and I, we got along for a long time, so I can tell you that they
Yes.
do. But
Yes.
when is your birthday?
October 18th.
Mine is the 14th, so we're fellow
very
Libras.
close. Yes, yes. Well, George said, you know, and there's something about Libras, instant, and Libras and Aries. George said, you know,
That's so
she
cute.
taught
I love
me all
that.
about that also.
Yes. Yeah, and when I saw that in the book, I was like, "Oh, that she's so right." Because I know my astrological things too, a little bit anyway. And I was like, "She's so right." You can tell she did her work on that. So,
She taught me a lot about that.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you, Kathryn. I will
thank you so
let
much,
you go,
Michelle.
and I will. Yeah, and like I said, I'm going to post this on her birthday because now I know it's so close, and we will post that website for everyone and get this out there. And I really appreciate this.
Oh, well, I cannot thank you enough. Truly, truly. Thank you
You're
so
so
much.
sweet. Okay, have a great
Well,
day.
when you come to LA, please do give me a call.
I will. I'll let you know. If I hope that trip happens,
And we'll
I'll
have
let you
good
know.
weather for you.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You've made it this far. Thank you for listening to Kathryn and I. Oh my God, wasn't she amazing? Oh, I loved her stories. I really did. And I feel so blessed to have been able to talk to her. I'm going to have all her links listed underneath here and her website. And guys, go on it. It is a great website. And I just want to thank Kathryn for talking with me. It was like a dream. Really. I mean, I never in a million years thought I'd get to talk to her. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone, if you like this video, please hit like. And if you'd like to hear about all my videos, please hit subscribe. And I just want to thank everyone for listening and leave any comments below if you have any comments about our talk. And I know she'll appreciate it. So thanks. Bye.